All right, good morning, everyone. My name is David Brown. I am the program manager for the Asvab Career Exploration Program in Central Tennessee. Joining us on the chat room and managing as the host is Garnett McDonald. She is the program manager in Eastern Tennessee. And together with our partner in Western Tennessee, Ray Johnson, we represent the Asvab Career Exploration Program to all the schools in Tennessee. Uh, if you look in the file section, you'll find a list of all three of us, our contact information. You'll also find some different brochures with some information on the program. All right. Wow, let's see. If 50 people is still growing, so I'll give it another moment. We have about 45 minutes before the session is over. As Garnett is posting in the chat room, there is a code there for you to use. You can log on to our website, www.asvabprogram.com, and use that code along with whatever email that you have that's associated with your school to create an account. And then you will have 1 school year of access to the site using that code. Your email address will become your login. And you can access this site just like a student would. The one thing that we ask you is to please not give this to students or to military recruiters. This is for educators. You can share this code with any educator that you would like. Our program is, of course, for high school and post-secondary, but any educator is welcome to familiarize themselves with our program. So by all means, feel free to use it. And if you have any questions, simply put them into the chat room. Garnett will answer, or she'll pass it on to me to answer to everybody if she thinks it's got a wide range need to know. Okay, we're at 57. We had a lot more signing in, but I only have 45 minutes. So again, if you have any questions, type them in for Garnett to take care of. And I want to tell you about our program. Okay, what we are, if you're not familiar with us, what we are is we are a career exploration program. We're federally funded, so that means that we cost nothing to the school or the student. We come into your school, into your facility. We give the ASVAB, which is the Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, which is a vocational aptitude assessment covering your verbal, your math, science, tech skills, auto and shop. We then, after we've given the ASVAB to the students, which is the military entrance test, so be upfront with that, perhaps one of the best vocational aptitude assessments in the English language. And we use that not to put your students in the military, but if they are upfront, if they are 11th and 12th grade or higher, and their scores would allow them to join the military, they could use the score from this test to join the military. This is one of the things about our program that makes us unique is that we are comprehensive. We can cover white collar, blue collar, and military jobs as a student is doing their career exploration so that they can see all aspects, all opportunities. So once we give them the ASVAB, we then come back to your school. Another unique aspect of our program. We can come back to your school. We can do it virtually, such as with Zoom, or we can do it live. We come in, go over the results with your student. We then, so once they understand how their scores compare to others in their grade, because that's what we do, we show them a comparison between their scores and others, and I'll go into that in a little bit. Then we take them online, give them a Holland interest inventory to help them identify to themselves, identify and rank their vocational interest. So it's not somebody telling your student, hey, I think you'd like this. It's the student telling the student, this is what I like. This is what I'm interested in. Once they've established those interests based on the theories of John Holland's career choice theory, we then take them into our database. Our database has over 1,100 different career fields in it, all key to those interest items and addressing the importance of those verbal, math, science, and tech skills so that the student has a good idea if they are willing to put in the work that they need to go after that job. And again, this is all designed to help you help your students look at life after high school. So that being said, the easiest way to demonstrate our program is to show you our program. So what I'd like to do is I'm going to walk you through. You have the code. You can do this if you want. You can go ahead and log in and learn more about yourself by taking the interest inventory, because that's another nice thing about going into our site. Once you log in with your code, you can actually take the interest inventory just like your students do. So you can see what it is we're showing them about themselves. All right, so this is our website, www.asvabprogram.com. And if you're going to create an account, you just simply click on Create Account, put in that access code we gave you, CEP for me, your email address, create a password, decide whether or not you want to receive emails from us about the program, prove you're not a robot, and register. I've already registered, so I just click on Login. And after a second, it takes me to my page. This is my landing page where I can see a visual representation of my ASVAB strengths, my verbal, my math, my science and tech. If I wanted to actually see how my composite scores were, I could look here. I could actually go and see what my actual ASVAB results were by clicking here. You see the interest codes. Now, you haven't done this yet, so if you're logging into your own page, until you take the Holland interest inventory, ours is called the FYI, find your interest, you won't have them there. But this shows you what your top 3 are, your top 3 codes out of the 6 Holland interest items. All right. Then over here, you see return to my FYI results, or retake the FYI. When the students come here, they will take the FYI. If you have a second one that you can take, so once you've taken it once, you can take it a second time before it locks them in place. This is the access to our OccuFind, which is our database of 1,110 occupations. You can look at your favorites here, and any of the jobs that you've clicked on as favorites, you can have a list of up to 10. And you can also have a list of up to 10 favorite educational facilities, also for a favorites list. You can look at any notes you've written. They stay with your profile until you delete them. And then we have some other things over here I'll talk about in a little bit. Now, first thing that your student sees when we come in to talk to them, we go over their results with them. Now, you have a copy of a summary result in the files on the website. This is a representation of an ASVAB summary result that we would give to a student. Do note this is for a 10th grade male. The thing to remember is that 10th graders' scores can never be used to join the military. The military never could see these scores. They're not allowed to. And so unless your student were to show it to a recruiter, they'll never know anything about this. They can't. All right, so we have a 10th grade student here. It's a male. And you have the 3 sets of scores. That's the first thing they see on there. They see their career exploration scores. They see their ASVAB test scores, and they see their military entrance score. Normally, when I'm giving this presentation to the students, I go here. I ask if anybody's thinking about the military. I tell them, this is something that this is the initial qualifier. It doesn't qualify you for everything, but it's the initial qualifier for military service. If you're interested, by all means, go see a recruiter. I'm not a recruiter, I'm a teacher, and then I move on. So then we talk about the other 2 sets of scores. The career exploration scores, these are composite scores based on the individual test scores, which is the second set of scores. The verbal skills score is a composite of the word knowledge and paragraph comprehension. The math skills is a composite of the arithmetic, reasoning, and the mathematics knowledge. And the science and technical skills is a composite of the general science, the electronics information, and mechanical comprehension. Now, at this point, when I'm giving the briefing, I normally just say, hey, the one that we don't include in those composites, because those are academic, is the auto and shop. But it's vocational, but we want them to see how they score in that area, because quite honestly, the trades are wide open in this country. And many students are suited for trades, and we want them to see how they score in that. A nice one is, one of the things I always talk about is, since we'll go into this in a moment too, but since guys and young women get trained a little bit differently by society, one of the things I like to do is point out to young ladies that a lot of times they score higher than the guys and they have no training in this area. So it's pure aptitude. It's not a developed skill set. They're scoring higher than the guys with pure aptitude. And so it can open them up to looking at things that maybe they weren't trained that women do. Same thing with the guys though. In some of the cases, we can actually show them things that they never thought about a guy doing either. So we try and overcome some of those social training as well. All right, so we have the 3 sets of scores. We have 2 types. We show them their percentile score and their standard score. Now we tell them the percentile score, the only thing on this sheet that is bumped up against the norms for older folks, for recruiting age folks, is that military entrance score. Everything else here is a comparison to the norms for their grade. All right, so since we're looking at a 10th grade male, those percentile scores are showing that 10th grade male a comparison to other 10th graders. The first column in the percentile is telling that student how their score compares to other 10th graders males. So it's your grade, your gender in the first column. A 10th grade female will be looking at a comparison to 10th grade females. My 10th grade male has a 95 for his verbal skill score, which means that he has scored as well or better than 95% of the 10th grade males who took this. Second column is their grade, opposite gender. So he's now looking at a comparison to 10th grade females. He has a 97, means he scored as well or better than 97% of 10th grade females. And the last column is a comparison to their grade as a whole. He has a 96, that means he scored as well or better than 96% of all 10th graders. Your grade, opposite your gender, your grade opposite gender, your grade as a whole, all the way down through all the individual tests as well as the composites. And we tell them this is so that you can understand where you are in comparison to everybody else who's going to be graduating the same time you are. If you're happy with it, that's one thing. If you're not happy with it, if you don't think it makes you competitive, then do something about it while you're in a facility that's filled with people who want nothing more than for them to have an improvement in all of these different academic areas. Okay, that's how they use the percentiles. The standard score is their score adjusted to the mean. So all the people who taught math out there, they know what we're talking about here. And I always ask the students, and you know, I'm very pleased to hear that they always understand what that means. What we've done is we've taken their score adjusted to the mean, to the average student, so that they can see how they compare to the average student. Okay, so over here, these are their scores in the far right column. This is just a graphical representation of their score so they can see that. The X marks the spot where their score falls in comparison to the average score, which is that 50-yard line right there. The little gray box is basically an indicator of how consistent they were in their answering. Sometimes you could joke about it, say, you know, the bigger the box, the more you might have been guessing. So anyway, if they're not, what I tell them is if their X, if the little gray box is sitting on the 50-yard line, you scored like the average student in your grade, and really that's what you're expected to be at. If your X starts moving up towards a 60 higher, that's a strength. If I were counseling, maybe I would be encouraging you, if I was just talking to this student right here, encouraging them to maybe take an AP English class, or maybe even dual enroll according to the situation. Get ahead, take advantage of your strength, challenge yourself, get stronger. Likewise, if your X starts moving down towards the 40s or the 30s, I say that this is an opportunity for you to grow. I never ever want to tell them that this is someplace they're not doing as well. It's just someplace they might want to focus. So in this case, if I were talking to the student, he's a 10th grader, so he's getting ready to take the ACTs next year. I would tell him definitely review your verbal skills, review your science and tech, focus on your math. And then you could use this again a little bit more to go down and take a look. Remember the mathematics knowledge and the arithmetic reasoning, excuse me, arithmetic reasoning were the 2 items that were used to make that composite score, so they can come down, take a look and see arithmetic reasoning scored pretty much like the average 10th grader. So maybe math knowledge is, math knowledge is the issue here. So they could actually flip their results over. On the back, it tells them what they were tested on in that particular section. Go to the math teacher and start developing a study plan. Okay? And ladies and gentlemen, unless there's a question about the ASVAB summary result, that's really all there is to it. It's just a good tool for the student to take a look and see where they are with these developed skills and aptitudes, and to see how they compare to others in their grade who've taken this as well. So if there's no questions about it, I want to show you what we do next. What we do next is we point out to the students that they have an access code. This code is good for 2 years, for 2 school years. They go to the website. They go to the website, create their account, and then they will land here. And we will take them to the next step, which is to take the FYI. Okay, don't see any questions popping up. Great. All right, so go take the FYI. Again, it's based on the theory of career choice from a really smart guy, Dr. Hammond. What we do is we give them a series of 90 different scenarios and ask them, here is an activity, attend an art class. Do you like the idea of taking part in it? Are you indifferent to it? Do you dislike it? Okay, and we do point out, disliking, liking, they're very strong. Most of the time you might find that you don't care one way or the other. We point out to them that they shouldn't be asking themselves, oh, I never could learn how to do that, it's too hard. It's just, do you like the idea of doing it? We're just trying to figure out what their interests are. So once they click on get started, they go through it, do 90 they click at 90 different activities, and then they will see their results. Now, we give them 2 sets of results. As I told you, the reason we do this is because in society, we tend to train our males to take care of stuff, and we train our females to take care of others. Now, when we came up with the codes, the 6 codes are realistic. Interest areas are realistic. Realistic deals with doing activities that have practical hand-on solutions to problems. Occupations in the realistic are things like being a plumber or an electrician. Investigative activities in the investigative area lead themselves to discovery, figuring things out, learning things. Police officer, my plumber, my electrician, why doesn't the light switch come on? Turn the light on. Why doesn't the toilet flush when I move the handle? So they have to figure those things out. Artistic, the creative, think outside the box. I always tell students this is my highest area, is my interests. These are the activities that allow you to be creative, thinking outside the box, such as all of your arts, but also other jobs that benefit from creativity, such as teaching. Social, this job has activities that deal with using your skills and abilities to aid and influence others. Doctor, nurse, teacher, another one of my top 3. Enterprising, being in charge. Again, doctor, nurse, executive, principals, teachers. And conventional, which is deals with the accuracy, attention to detail, following procedure, computer programmer, accountants, bookkeepers. And when I show the students my results, they always, kind of laugh because I get a 0 for conventional. And I do point out at this point, though, when I'm talking about it, if I have the time, when I was in the military, I was a master computer instructor, which is very much about the conventional. But doesn't mean, so when you get these scores, it's not saying you couldn't be good at it. It just means that it's not in your area of interest. And so I just want to point that out. That's right. So here's mine. Now, if you don't see a difference between my top 3, that's normal, but it's also normal for a student to see a difference between their combined score and their gender specific. The reason for seeing the difference between the combined score and the gender specific is because when we came up with these results, we compared their responses to the norms for both males and females. And as I told you, guys tend to be taught to be realistic, take care of stuff. Females tend to be taught to be social, take care of others. So when you mix those groups together, you might see one set of results. In my case, artistic, enterprising, and social, yes, but I tie with realistic. Okay. Take the females out, the ones who've been taught to be social, and then it changes a little bit. In fact, it changes quite a bit. Artistic and enterprising are still mine, but compared to guys, my top two, but compared to guys, I'm much more social than most guys are, much more caring about others, taking care of others. And so all of a sudden, my social is a stronger score. My realistic drops to number 4. It's pretty hard to beat 0, but it drops to number 4. So compared to guys, I'm not all that realistic. So that's why we do that, so that they can see that maybe a young woman who is over here might be guided towards being a nurse. When she looks at her gender specific, she starts looking at things like being an engineer, something that maybe she was never talked to about. Same thing with the guys. Maybe they were looking at an engineering job, but all of a sudden their social score is way up there. Maybe they might want to take a look at being a nurse or a doctor. So they can see some different things that maybe their societal training, norming, wouldn't have let them look at before. So that's why we do that. So once a student chooses which one they want to be their dominant set, these over here, my top 3 interests, will be driven by that. And then we can start exploring. I haven't seen any questions pop up, so I'll keep going. Once we do that, we click Start Exploring. And it takes us to our Occupy, where Dr. Holland's codes are over here. We give you the opportunity, since there's 1,110 different jobs in this database, to whittle it down a little bit. We allow them to use up to 2 of those interest codes. So we always suggest take your top 2, at least the first time through: artistic, mine, and enterprising. So that's what I'll search by. You can sort them. You can sort them by your Asvab strength. So they could choose one of those and say, I want to sort by verbal. Now, if I really want to use my verbal skills, then I would look at the first list, where they're strongly used, or very used quite often. Second list, used somewhat. Third list, not as often. So if a student wanted to use their verbal skills, they'd look at the first, maybe the second list. If they didn't want to use their verbal skills, they'd look at the third list. They can also filter by some more categories. Bright outlook, these are the occupations that are growing according to our federal folks over OPM. Green careers, these are fields that are eco-friendly. STEM careers, those that deal with science, technology, engineering, mathematics. Hot military careers, if they are interested in the military, this will show them jobs that the military is really wanting to fill, and perhaps they just want to see what, they only want to see jobs that have a military application. They could do available in the military. They can also search by keyword. Now here's the thing, if they go click on all of them, they won't probably see anything, because you can over filter. So the first time through, at least, we always suggest that they just go with their top 2. And when they do that, they will get a list of jobs. In my case, I searched on artistic and enterprising. I find 68 different careers that have both of those interests in them. And you'll see that I have a couple that I've clicked as my favorites. And this was my dream job. So this is the one I always show them. When I was a 16-year-old in high school, when I took my first Holland interest inventory. And I click on that, bring them into it. Now here's what they find. They can write themselves notes. Those notes stay with them, the profile, until they delete them or until their profile is invalidated. They can add to or remove from a favorites list. They can have up to 10 favorite jobs. If they get to 10, they want to add another one, they're going to have to make a choice. The name of the job is here, broadcast news analyst, all other names for the job, followed by a description of the job, if they're still interested in it. That is correct. You can also search by career cluster. That is another means to look. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. We have a description of the job, and then what are the interest codes that are aligned with this job. And in this case, it's artistic, social, and enterprising. That just happens to be my top 3. So as a 16-year-old in high school, I had picked a job that spoke to what my interests were. It tells you how important the people in this field say that those different measured skills and aptitudes are to the job. Verbal, of course, very important. Math, somewhat important. Science and tech, somewhat important. We then tell them what they do on the job. Then we tell them how to get there. So when we talk about how to get there, we've talked to people who are in this field, and these are the types of this is the type of education that people who are experts in the field say that a student needs to find a position in this field. So 67% of those people say that for education, you should have at least a bachelor's degree. Well, we go a step ahead, and we show you, if you click on college info, we show you what colleges have told us that they have a program of study that can lead to employment in this particular field. In this case, in the United States, there are 552 schools. Students can sort by school name, they can sort by city, about tuition. They can look in simply their own state. So since we're talking Tennessee, let's look in Tennessee. And in Tennessee, we have 10 schools that have a program of study that can lead to employment. And not only do we show you what the school is, the school's name is, where it is, what the tuition in and out of state is, we show you what type of programs they offer. If a student sees a school that's interesting to them, they can then click on that, and then we give them information about that school. The information we give, and by the way, over here you'll see where you can write notes on the school and add or remove from your favorites list. You can have up to 10 favorite schools as well. In-state, out-of-state tuition, the admission rate as opposed to how many have applied. I find this to be something that I would like my kids to know about, is how many students return the following year, because usually many times that's a good indicator of whether or not that school is meeting the needs of the student. Now, it may be that a school produces a lot of people who are getting 9-month certificates, and there's no reason to come back the second year, but it's a good thing to take a look at. And when you start seeing a number like 80%, that's a good indicator that the students are happy with the school. We'll also talk about what kind of SAT scores got the students into the school, as well as the composite score. If there's an ROTC unit at the school, those units will be represented down here as well. So they can find out if they're interested in ROTC, they can find that out about the school as well. Now, if I go back out to my broadcast news analyst, because I'm quickly running out of time, you'll see that also any certification information, they can find that here. Licensing information, apprenticeship information as well, because some students might go into a job that doesn't require academics, or like my nephew, who is a HVAC repairman, he had to do a 9-month program in a school and then do a 2-year apprenticeship. So they can find information about apprenticeship in their state here. If the military services offer this job, their symbols will show up here. If the students are interested in that, even if it's just for research, they can click here. It will take them into our page on military jobs. If they go one step farther than this, and let's say they're interested in the public affairs specialist, which all 5 branches of the military have, they can go there. It takes them to a sister site called Careers in the Military, where they can find out a lot more information about the military side of whatever occupation they're looking at. I don't know if it's going to open up here. We're getting a lot of people hitting it. But when they go in here, they can find out a lot of information. Now their scores are being normed to the recruiting age. And in many cases, here it pops up. I won't go into too much of this here. But in many cases, they can find out whether or not their score would qualify them for military service before they ever talk to a recruiter. So a student could actually compile a list of occupations that they wanted to see if they could get into, and then they could go to a recruiter, as opposed to having the recruiter initiate the conversation and maybe steer them towards jobs they need to fill. And maybe they can find a happy medium. This job meets my interest. You need it filled. Let's talk. But that's about all I'm going to say about that field. I mean, that page. If I go back Again, if I go back up to broadcast news analyst, after we've looked at how to get there, what schools train to it, maybe the military services, all about the apprenticeships, etc., it brings us down to what many students are going to think is the most important thing, and it is quite important. It's the money. We showed what the students, what the entry-level salary is nationally. The average salary is nationally for the job. But we also show them, if we have enough meaningful information, we can show them what the entry salary is state by state. In the state of Tennessee, entry salary into the world of broadcast news is $20,000. Average salary, although $91,990 nationwide in the state of Tennessee, it's $67,840. Now I do always tell them, I say, this is one of those fields where you have a few people who are making millions and millions of dollars, and it does kind of throw off the average salary, which is always why it's always better to look at the state that you're wanting to go to. Now, probably the most important thing that I could show them about a job, I think, might be this. When I click on more details, we actually can show them what the federal government is projecting is the national employment outlook for this particular occupation. And in this case, it's expected to shrink some over the next decade. And so while we're not trying to discourage a student from ever pursuing anything that they have an interest in, our program is not about telling a student not to pursue an occupation. It's to be informed about that occupation. So if they chose, knowing that it is a shrinking field to go after, by all means, you have a lot of information that you can use to make yourself the most competitive for those fewer slots. But we want them to be informed. Now, I come back out here, and on the right-hand side, you might be seeing a lot of information. Over here, we have resources. March to Success is a Army-run website that actually helps students improve their, if you don't know this, improve their verbal math science take, their for test taking purposes, ACT, SAT, Khan Academy as well. There are FAFSA, link to FAFSA, the College Navigator, College Calculator, the Living Wage Calculator. If you've never taken your students out there, take a look at what it costs to raise a family of 4 in the state of California or in the state of Tennessee. You can come out here and actually show them so that they can make some more informed choices about their future jobs. Career resources. Here we have resources for the specific career that they're looking at. The National Association of Broadcasters, et cetera, Radio, Television, Digital News Association. So they can go out and get some information from the professionals. The Occupational Outlook Handbook, what does this say about it? Again, career clusters. Here we show them what career cluster this belongs to. They can go click here and they can go find other jobs in that career cluster. And then over here, I like showing them this one. It's the related careers. And they're related careers, and I tell them this, it's not related based on what you do as a broadcaster. It's related to what are the interests that brought you to broadcasting that other jobs share. And in this case, I always show them this one, the secondary school teacher, because it is the same top 3, artistic, enterprising, and social, that broadcasting has. Slightly different order, but it's still the same top 3. Still speaks to the same top interests that I have. Again, you find out what the job interests are, how important the skill sets are. Now, the math and science are a bit more important. They should know that they're going to have to do a little bit more studying. Bachelor's degree is still the most important degree to have. Most jobs line up with that to enter the field. Certification, licensing, apprenticeship information, that's all there. But you'll notice that the military symbols are gone because there are, the military has a requirement for a high school diploma or equivalent to join. So there's no reason to have high school teachers in the military. So there are no military equivalents of this job. Entry-level salary is higher nationwide. Entry-level salary is higher in the state of Tennessee. Average salary, while it is not as high as the average salary of a broadcaster, I would ask anybody out there, if you're making $1 million or more a year, please let me know, because I don't know of a teaching position that that's out there that would raise ours to something that may not be realistically attainable by most people in the field. That's much more realistic. And the most beautiful thing about this is we're growing. And that's another thing I tell students is, we already don't have enough teachers, and they expect to have the growth of the need for more. So it's a wide open field, and with demand comes increased pay. So they could probably expect somewhere along the line to see that in any position where there's a higher demand than there is something to fill it. All right. So that's pretty much what we walk them through in a 45-minute long session. In that 45-minute long session, we walk them through what the results mean, how they could use them to benefit themselves. We also show them how to take the interest inventory. We tell them what that interest inventory is telling them about themselves. And then we show them how to use this. And so at the end of a 45-minute long session, they've actually looked at a career. They've looked at all of those different aspects of it. And that's pretty good for 45 minutes. And it's been led, so that they've actually walked through it and they've seen how it works. Now, if I choose to go back out to my Asvab CEP, which is my landing page, you will see over here, view favorites. So the student can come back in here and take a look at all the jobs that were their favorites. They can look at what colleges were their favorites. If they have a favorite career cluster, they can have up to 10 of those too. They can look at that. Nice thing here is they could actually take up to 3 jobs and do a side-by-side comparison. It creates a PDF, printable PDF version, so they can actually have a side-by-side comparison, sit down with their counselors, sit down with their CTE instructors, sit down with their parents, and actually do a comparison of jobs with a product. Go back out here. Over here on the plan, we have the portfolio. Portfolio is basically a track of the student. The student can track what they've done in school. So many things they might not remember. If they're starting to put it into their portfolio, they can keep track of things. They can use this when they're developing their applications to programs with different schools, or perhaps an application for a job. This is just a means for them to record all these things. Some schools have students fill them out and they turn them into their counselors. What are their plans, their work experience, education, their ASVAB scores automatically go in here. Any other test scores that any other tests they may have taken, they can put their scores in here. Any achievements, any skills that they have developed, volunteer activities they have taken part in, their interest, showing this, it does show the schools that they have actually done some introspection. They've actually looked to see what kind of vocational interests they have. That automatically comes in here. Work values, what they've learned about work. Again, favorite occupations, career clusters, favorite military careers, another one that they can do. Favorite colleges. Anything that's checked that has something written in it will show up when they go to create the PDF of their portfolio. Okay. And for you at your school, I shouldn't have hit that one. For you at your school, there are also career planning tools here, as well as a coursework planner. And there's classroom activities. So for your math, your science, your history, for every one of your academic areas at your school, we have activities to tie career exploration to that particular function. So that's there for you to use, some nice lesson plans. In the resources section, we have a number of things out there now. The admin overview, the overview guide, the fact sheet, and the ASVAB summary, those are all out there for you. We have some videos here. This is a video that goes over basically what we do if we come in the room, understanding your results, taking the FYI, and then using those results to take a look in the Occufind. There's also a video on completing the portfolio. Oh, a lot of things to go through there in a few minutes. Did anybody have any questions about this? They want to share, they want to ask a question, by all means, let us address it. We understand that with everything going on in COVID-19, that a lot of things have changed. We are willing to work with you. We want to work with your students. We are all true believers, and we want to help you help them look to life after high school. If it's, we have two different versions. We have two different versions of the Asvab that we can present. We have a paper and pencil version that takes about 3 hours to administer. We also have, and we do that, we send all the staffing, or if your school is worried about people coming in, what we can do is allow you to give the test. We simply send somebody in to monitor the material, handout, and return.
Hi, Dave.
And Garnett, this is Garnett. Go ahead.
This is Garnett. For some reason, I'm not able to type any more into chat. I may have put too many things. So the key word for today's session is chicken, C-H-I-C-K-E-N. Dave, if you can type it into chat, I'm not able to.
Okay.
So the key word for today's session is chicken.
I'm doing that right now. Let's see. There it goes. Thank you, Eric.
We've only got, Dave, can I just take about 2
Absolutely.
minutes here? Got
Yeah,
4 minutes? As a retired school counselor, test coordinator, and teacher, I just want to thank you for what you're doing. My head hurts just even trying to wrap my head around all the adjustments and how you are providing education for the students. So thank you so much for what you do. I want to make clear that in this program, there's absolutely no obligation to the military. This is a program designed for all students. Dave has placed things in the file that will explain to you release options of scores and those sorts of things. Those are up to the school. I've the session ID number. Dave, do you have that? That's a question on the chat if you take care of that.
I will find it.
I use this program when I was a school counselor because it is the only program that I could find that showed all the pathways. Usually a program, career exploration programs leave out a pathway. I was about giving students the information they needed to make informed decisions and all the options available before them. This is the only program that I could find to do that. Also, since we use the Asvab as the aptitude piece, it is the most researched, has one of the highest validity coalitions and reliability coalitions out there. So I knew that students were getting good information about themselves. I put in the chat, and when you're on the website, if you look at step 3, there are lesson plans that you can use in the classroom. There's also virtual lesson plans, should you need those. I've put our contact information for all 3 program managers. Please feel free to reach out if we can help you. We know how difficult your job is right now. Please feel free to reach out, and we are here to help you in any way that we can. If you're interested in scheduling the Asvab, if you're lucky enough to be in school session and can give up that time, contact any of us. And as Dave said, we can also do the post-test virtually for those in my area in East Tennessee. I know how valuable your class time is, so I'm going to offer virtual sessions in the evening so your students and parents can do those at home. So thank you. Thank you for joining us today.
Session code, I have that. If I will put it in the chat.
It's on the chat, Dave.
Okay. All right. I was so busy looking, I didn't see if anybody had found it. So thank you, whoever did that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't have any other questions for us, we're happy that you came and joined us. I hope that you did, in fact, learn some more about our program, and feel free to contact any one of us if you would like to get more information or perhaps even schedule a session. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best.